These are the last 4 problems for Algebra A's study guide for Test 4, Quarter 2. And so the first one, number 6, in this part says Kate bought 3 CDs and 1 DVD for $20. And right there, that's a value equation. And so they're probably going to ask for how much the CDs cost and the DVDs cost. But let's read on. Joe, he bought 2 CDs and 2 DVDs for $24. Okay, so we know that it's talking about the same product again, CDs and DVDs. Find the cost. That's right, that's what we expected. Find the cost of a CD and a DVD. So let's write the 2 equations we've got. Let's call CDs the cost of a CD as C and the cost of a DVD as D. And we'll start with Kate's equation. And so Kate's equation goes this way. 3 CDs. So 3 times the cost of a CD. So 3C. And just means plus 1 DVD. So 1 times the cost of a DVD. Well, value for that will be $20. Well, so there's Kate's equation. Joe's equation. Joe, he bought 2 CDs, so 2 times the cost of a CD. And, again, there's the plus sign there. And we have 2 DVDs, so 2 times the cost of a DVD. And that total was $24. So total value, $24. Well, we're ready to solve. And this one is set up for substitution. Or actually, we'd have to subtract the 3C. So let's go ahead and use elimination because the C's, D's, equal signs, and constants are all lined up. How about we multiply that top equation by -2? And this will cancel out the D, or the DVDs. And so what we've got is -6C, a -2D, and this all equals -40. So now we're ready to add these equations, and we end up canceling out the D's. So what we've got left is a -4C equals, and do the subtraction. Careful when you do this. Make sure you put the bigger number on top. And we end up with a 16. And so this is negative as well. And so when we do that division, we end up with a C as 4. So remember 16 because you end up having to borrow from this 4 when you turn it around. Well, from there, it's easiest to set it or put it into Kate's equation, I think, because D is almost, well, by itself. You just need to move the 3C over. So we're going to take that 4, and we're putting it in place of C in Kate's equation. So 3 times by 4, and then plus D equals 20. So we end up with a 12 plus D equals 20, and so from there you can see all you're going to do is subtract the 12 from both sides, and that gives us the value of a DVD, which is $8. So there it is, $8 for the DVD and $4 for the CD. Well, we've got another problem that involves solving using systems. So let's take a look at it. Fab Fitness, or FabFit, offers a membership for $35 per month. Well, that tells us this is probably our variable cost. But let's go into the question to make sure. If that's our question for how many months, then we're going to use an M for our variable. Sure enough, how many months? That's what they're asking for. So we don't know the number of months, so we're going to use M for the number of months. Plus, well, that's obviously a plus sign, and then a $50 enrollment fee. This is one time. You're not going to pay this again, so it's a one-time fee. It's an enrollment fee. So we've got our equation for that. They're asking for the cost when the cost will be the same. So same cost means we're going to use the same variables for their cost. We'll say C is cost. That's the variable we were using there. And the equation would be 35M, so $35 per month, so 35M, and then plus 50, that's what it says, plus a $50 enrollment fee. So that's for Fab Fitness. So let's take a look at Ed's. Ed Studio, they charge $35 initial fee. This means one time. So that's where the 35 goes, right underneath the 50 initial fee for an enrollment fee for Fab Fitness. And then we also have a $40 per month per again. That tells us that's where our variable goes. So $40 per month. And we want to find out when their costs will be the same. So we're going to use the same variable for cost. Now, if you look at it, this one here, Ed, he's cheaper to start with, but then Fab Fitness will be cheaper eventually because they charge less per month. So we want to find out when they'll have the same charge. So let's go ahead and take this 35M plus 50 and put it in place of that variable, C. So let's rewrite it. 35M plus 50 equals 40M plus 35. So we can go ahead and do some work there by doing some opposite operations, bringing variables to one side. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 35 from both sides. That'll bring the constants to the left. And then I'll subtract this 35M from both sides. That'll bring the variables to the right. And so what I'm left with is when I do that subtraction, make sure again you borrow, it ends up being a 4, which changes this to 15. So 15 equals, and then when I do this subtraction, I end up with just 5M. So it's only going to take 3 months. And that's when the two companies will charge the same. So 3 months. Well, now they want to know, what is that cost going to be? We'll just take that 3 months and put it in place of one of these m's. I'll put it into this equation here. So I'm just going to substitute, rewrite this second equation, Ed's equation, 40 times 3 plus 35. So when I multiply these, I get 120 plus 35 gives me 155. So $155, that is the cost for, and when they'll end up charging the same after those 3 months. Well, here are two other types of problems, different types, not systems here. Here we're writing an equation. Here we're going to write an equation as well. So in these next two problems, we're going to be using this formula. It goes y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. But what we need on this formula is a point for x1 and y1. So that's the point that we're going to use. And we need a slope. And that is the negative 1/4 in this case. So let's go ahead and rewrite what we've got in our point-slope form. It goes y minus y1. So that's the 2. This is the 2 right here. And equals our slope of negative 1/4 times by x minus x1. Well, that's that negative 8. So minus negative. So when you see those minus negatives, right away change them to plus positives. Otherwise, you'll make an error when you multiply. So we go ahead and do that. Now we've got y minus 2 equals negative 1/4 x. And then here it becomes a negative. 1 negative times a positive makes a negative. And then off to the side, if you're unsure, do 1/4 times by 8 over 1. 4 goes in 8 2 times, multiply across, and that's where we're getting 2. Well, one more step here, and that is just to add 2 to both sides. And when I do that, I end up getting these to cancel because they're opposite in sign. So I do subtract, and I end up with negative 1/4 x. You could put plus 0 if you wanted to. That'd be fine. Well, on this next problem, though, we're going to write an equation. So we're going to use this same formula again, but we don't have the slope. But we've got enough points to find the slope. So we need to use this formula. It goes m equals y minus y1 over x minus x1. So it's 2 points. So just pick 2. Let's cross 2 of them out. Cross those numbers. They seem to be higher numbers, so it can be a little bit tougher if I use those. Anyhow, I'll use these 2 points. Remember, this is 1 point, and this is the other point. So I'm going to subtract the x values, but those go in the bottom. Subtract the y values, go on top. So it's going to be 7 minus 1. So I put the 7 first, then the 1. And then it's going to be 3 minus 1. So we end up with a 6, positive 6, over a positive 2, which ends up just making 3 over 1, which is just 3. So 3 is my slope, and I'm going to use that slope in one of these points. I'll use this 3, 7, and I'm going to put it in that point-slope formula. So remember, it goes this way. Y minus, and then the 7, equals the slope 3 times by x minus 3. So again, it was this 3 up here. And then from there I use the distributive property, multiply that 3 over that x minus 3. I'm left with y minus 7 equals 3x minus 9. So one last step here, that is just to move that 7 over, and you've got your answer. So I'll add 7 to both sides. Remember, opposite signs, so subtract here. So we end up with a y equals 3x minus 2. And there are the problems you'll see on this week's test. There's more on the backside to practice. Good luck.